Magic is the cool, flashy stuff in games that can help decimate foes and cure allies. It comes in many different forms and functions, from basic spells to complicated mechanics. This list is dedicated to the stranger, more unique ways of magic and its functionality in their respective games. Some are cool, while some are just downright annoying or weird. This isn't a list on which is the best, but which one is really out there. There are some minor spoilers showing off some boss fights in games, but nothing major plot-wise. So let's get started, shall we? Number 10. Kirby Series, Magic Copy Abilities. Kirby can turn into all kinds of things by inhaling certain enemies with special abilities. While, say, the fighter ability isn't really magic-based, there are clearly ones that are very magic-y, such as the ice and fire abilities. It's a unique way to acquire magic, eating dudes and absorbing their powers. And it makes for a varied game each time you play through, unless you love Sword and just run through the whole game like that. One ability in particular that I find unique and fun, while somewhat tedious, is the Plasma ability found in Kirby Superstar. You can shoot out a pitiful zap of energy, or you can furiously run back and forth in quick succession to build up more power and then BLAM! Fire off a giant orb of energy. That whole process I find very cool, even if it's still pretty weak compared to the other abilities you can get. Number 9. Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, Custom Spell Runes. Throughout Eternal Darkness, you slowly learn runes that can be combined several ways to create new spells. Each rune has a specific meaning or keyword, and with that, you can combine them to make an actual magic spell. The wording of the runes often makes sense when combined, such as Bankarok meaning protection, and Santak meaning self, which in turn creates the spell for shield. There's an interesting aspect about the spells in that you can flavor the entire spell according to the alignment runes associated with the ancient deities in the game. The three main gods are weak and strong against each other, with Chattur'gha strong against Xel'lotath but weak to Ulyaoth, Xel'lotath strong against Ulyaoth, and Ulyaoth strong against Chattur'gha. Eventually, you get another alignment rune that's just strong against all three of those, which is kind of cheap, but hey, it works. Number 8. Final Fantasy VIII, Absorbing Spells. Like I said at the beginning, not all of the unique magic systems on this list will be met with open arms. My memory of playing Final Fantasy VIII is plagued with the constant need to have 100 of each spell I came across. This is painfully highlighted at the beginning of the game, where you have no spells and then suddenly you discover like 6 right off the bat. In this game, you gain spells through the draw mechanic, where you absorb spells from enemies or bosses, gaining the ability to use the spell depending on how many you manage to absorb. This can range from a pitiful 1 spell draw up to 9 per turn. The more of a spell you have, the better it is at junctioning onto your character's stat, making them way stronger in that stat. You don't have to suffer through this mechanic if you so choose, and can play through the game normally, though it will be much more difficult and makes you rely on the summons in the game a bit more. It is unique, I'll give it that, but it also made players like myself not wanting to touch magic, as using it while it's connected to a character's stat would make it worse. Number 7. Outward, Magic and Tools. This game is quite fun once you get the hang of things. I never really touched the magic aspect, opting for being a tank with a giant club, but the person I played the game alongside, as it supports a local co-op, did go through the process of learning how runes worked and outside influences on spells. There are layers to this magic system. It gives you the basic spell, but then you can use items and tools to change the spell. You can invoke a sigil to appear at your feet, and if you stand within the circle and cast the same spell, it will be powered up in some way. Another cool thing was that if you held onto a lantern and did the fire spell, it would transform into a flamethrower, extending its range, which I thought was a neat, down-to-earth approach of altering spells. It can be finicky as you switch out items and position things perfectly, but if you have someone else tagging along to distract and take hits while you set up, it's very much worth your time to learn. Number 6. Okami Celestial Paintbrush. After you learn to draw certain symbols from constellations, you can use your celestial paintbrush to summon forth bombs, cut things in half, or summon a massive fireball. You will use these magic abilities to solve puzzles and defeat some tricky enemies. This technique of drawing out magic spells has been done before, as you'll see later in this list, but the simplicity of Okami's mechanic is just wonderful. You can change the screen to a parchment paper with the general scene you're looking at etched into it. From there, you can do area effects or tap onto certain elements and drag them across the map, such as taking water to douse a flame. Each time you bring up the brush, it pauses the game and allows you time to figure out what magic spell you're going to use. You have a limited number of spell uses before it needs to recharge, shown as pots of ink on your meter, but you'll almost never be in a sticky situation while you wait to access your spells. Number 5. Rudra no Hiho, or the Treasure of the Rudras, Mantra Creation. Rudra no Hiho had a magic system that sounded great until you realized people would share their findings and crank the game into easy mode as soon as you could access the game menu. In this game, magic spells were called mantras, and you could learn new ones by writing out new ones, often taking snippets and weaving them together to make powerful spells. Let's take a look at the lightning spell To. If you put To Nates, you'll get a stronger lightning spell. To Tiem would increase it again, although not all of the spells ran on a similar logic. The earth spell Leb could be upgraded to Warleb and Warrat. This is mainly because the spells were in kanji, as Rudra no Hiho never came over to the Western world, so translators had to make do with the Roman alphabet to create these spells. There was a big problem with the system. As you probably already guessed, you can search online and get full lists of spells to use in the game. To show you just how simple this is, I started a new record, got into the menu, and made the most powerful fire spell instantly and decimated an enemy within a few minutes. While different and probably rewarding during its release, where there wasn't an access to spell information, it is definitely flawed nowadays with our game guides online. Still very cool. Number 4. Arx Fatalis, Draw Spells. Similar to Okami, the magic system in Arx Fatalis made you draw runes using the mouse and control keys on your computer. While Okami allowed one spell to be drawn up, Arx Fatalis allowed players to use a number of runes in a sequence to create unique spells. If you draw the runes Am, meaning create, Frid, meaning ice, and Tar, meaning projectile in a row, you'll unlock the Ice Breath attack. This is similar to Eternal Darkness, but that system was very rigid and only allowed specific spells, whereas this game allows you to experiment and figure out spells on your own. While drawing spells is kind of clumsy, it does make you feel more involved in the game overall. Number 3. In Verbis Virtus, say the spells. So we've all heard of drawing out runes, but what about saying them out loud? Make way for In Verbis Virtus, a game where you learn magic spells and in order to use them, you have to say them out loud. You learn these spells from books that help you with pronunciation, allowing you to wizard up some light without touching a button. It feels pretty cool to have voice-activated spells, though I can see it getting very tedious and annoying very fast. It is a very interesting gimmick to a magic-focused game. Number 2, our Tsundere series, Song, Magic, and Diving.
Listen to my lyrics! You face the Holy Maiden!
How about this?
You're so...
When you have a game that dives deep into the lore of how magic is created and the methods of creating new spells, you get the Tsundere series. The game has dedicated spellcasters known as Ravetales, who use song to create magic spells that are definitely the most powerful, OP magic in any game I've ever played. Battles in this game are basically you just charging up a spell to unleash a massive explosion of destruction at your enemy. Depending on the game, you have 1 or 2 Ravetales in your party, charging up their spell as you have your Vanguard characters protect and fight the enemy with weapons. So how does the song magic change or improve? Well, there's a system called Dive Therapy, where the protagonist of the game will enter a Ravetale's cosmosphere or soul space and interact with the Ravetale's memories, feelings, possible traumas, or fears. When you trigger events and cause changes during the dive, the Ravetale will craft new song magic to use in battle. It's a very strange but satisfying way to make new magic, allowing you to connect with the characters along the way and understand the meaning behind the physical manifestations that the song magic take on. Number 1, Mages of Mystralia, Spellcrafting. Now, this magic system is so fun, and allows you to craft so many specific spells for you to use. In this game, you have a spell book where you can add different runes to change the overall spell's effects, directions, augmentations, and behavior to design a perfect spell for your style of gameplay. You have a series of instructions you can attach to your spells, such as triggering effects where, when the fireball hits an enemy, it will trigger another spell to execute, shown here with the falling rocks. You can also add more fireballs to one fireball spell. You can make the spell slowly rotate, but wait, add your fireball spell to the rotating statue spell and bam, you have a magic sentry. There's all this kinds of stuff you can do. To bouncing spells, seeking fireballs, spells that curve in one direction. It's seemingly endless and all you need is your creative brain.